There was once a man who believed he could conquer death, not with steel, not with armies, but with liquid metal. A man whose throne was built not only on power, but on fear, and whose obsession with immortality poisoned not only his body, but the very soul of his empire. His name was Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, and the last man who should have ever tasted Mercury. Before Qin Shi Huang became a legend, he was just a ruthless warlord with one impossible dream: to unite all of China, not as kingdoms but under one name, his. And somehow, he did. Through rivers of blood and mountains of skulls, he crushed every rival state. By the time he was 39, he had become the first emperor of a land that had never known unity. But the moment he seized control of everything, he became terrified of losing the one thing he couldn't control: time. What do you do when you've conquered the world, but death still watches you sleep? Qin Shi Huang couldn't rest. He became obsessed with omens, stars, dreams. He sent scholars into the forests to decode ancient texts. He paid alchemists in gold, demanding one thing: bring me a potion that will make me live forever. They brought him powders, stones, teas, and then something more dangerous: Mercury. They told him Mercury was powerful, mysterious, divine, a liquid that shimmered like silver. It came from the earth, untouched by time. And he believed them. He drank it. He bathed in it. He ordered it placed in his food. They didn't know it was poison, or worse. They did. But they feared him too much to say it. At first he felt invincible, stronger, sharper, clearer. But soon, he began to change. His moods turned violent. He became paranoid. He believed spirits whispered in the palace walls. He would scream at invisible enemies. He accused his own sons of betrayal. He ordered entire libraries burned, terrified that knowledge could be used against him. And yet, he kept drinking the mercury every single day. As he aged, his fear turned into full-blown madness. He refused to die in the capital. He believed if he left the palace, the gods would spare him. So he built a moving fortress, a massive convoy of guards, doctors, concubines, and astrologers, and disappeared across the countryside. No one was allowed to say where he was. No one was allowed to record where they went. He kept searching for mountains rumored to have divine herbs, for hidden sages who could cheat death. But there were no miracles, only silence and sickness. Somewhere along the journey, his body began to shut down. The mercury had corroded his brain. His organs had turned soft. He began shaking uncontrollably, bleeding from the gums, vomiting black. But no one dared speak the truth. Even as his skin turned pale and cold, his servants still whispered to him like he was alive. They dressed his corpse in royal robes. They propped him up in the carriage. They even filled the coach with fish to cover the stench of decay. Because they knew, if the empire found out their emperor was dead, while hundreds of generals were away with him, the entire kingdom would fall. But Qin Shi Huang had one last secret, a twisted final gift to the world, buried beneath a mountain, guarded by rivers of mercury, and sealed for eternity. But for all his armies, his palaces, and his conquests, there was one enemy the first emperor of China could not conquer: death. It haunted him like a specter in the mirror. The stars that once promised him divine rule now whispered darker things, omens of collapse, betrayal, and a short reign. Qin Shi Huang, once a warrior who stared death in the face, now feared it more than anything. He turned his empire into a machine built for immortality. He burned books to control truth, built monuments to defy time, and killed scholars who questioned his dreams. But still, the hours ticked. Still, his bones ached. Still, his sleep was plagued with dreams of rotting. In desperation, he sent fleets of ships westward, into the unknown, chasing a myth told by magicians and alchemists: the Isles of the Immortals, lands where death held no dominion, where gods walked among mountains, where golden elixirs flowed from the trees. But every mission returned empty, or never returned at all. Some say the captains betrayed him and fled. Others say they reached something cursed. But Qin Shi Huang couldn't wait. He was growing old, and the sands were slipping fast. So he turned to what he believed was the next best thing: alchemy. Court alchemists promised him miracles. They whispered of a substance that defied decay, that shone like a god's tears and shimmered like lightning frozen in glass. Mercury. They called it the water of the spirits. They said it was the blood of the earth. And the emperor drank. At first, it made him feel strong, restored, euphoric. He declared it the greatest discovery in history. But then, the changes came. His skin began to flake. His breath stank of metal. His mind began to fracture. He ordered more mercury, then more. The palace physicians dared not speak. The servants wept in secret. Some say he began seeing visions, not of gods but of demons with silver eyes whispering from his own reflection. Qin Shi Huang, in seeking eternity, was slowly turning to poison. The same mercury meant to preserve his soul was eating him alive. His empire, once a vision of order, was now ruled by madness. He changed laws overnight, executed advisors for imagined betrayals. Paranoia flooded the halls of his court like smoke. In 210 BCE, the emperor left for one final journey, not to conquer a land but to seek the ultimate elixir. They say he was sick beyond recognition, his face swollen, his body trembling. But still he wore his armor. He believed the secret of eternity waited near the eastern sea. But somewhere near the sands of Gili he collapsed. He never reached the elixir. He never outran the grave. He died, alone. And his body, filled with mercury, began to decay even before the sun had set. His death was kept secret for weeks. Why? Because his ministers feared chaos, civil war, collapse. So they filled his wagon with rotting fish to mask the smell of his decaying, poisoned corpse. The great emperor who united China was now rotting in silence, hidden behind walls of lies and perfume. He was buried in a tomb so vast, so secret, that to this day, no one has dared open it. The ancient texts say that rivers of liquid mercury flow through it like veins of silver lightning, that crossbows are rigged to fire at intruders, that curses line the walls. Thousands of workers died building it, and when it was sealed, no one left alive knew the full design. To this day, the tomb of Qin Shi Huang remains untouched. Scientists confirm mercury levels in the soil around it are abnormally high, but the Chinese government forbids excavation. Why? What are they protecting or fearing? The irony is unbearable. Qin Shi Huang built an empire to defy time, but he became its prisoner. He tried to erase death, and instead became a symbol of its inescapability. He drank mercury to live forever, and now lies forever alone buried in poison. His name echoes through the centuries, but not in praise, in warning. They called him a god. They called him eternal. But the truth? He was just a man who feared the dark, and in trying to outrun death, he ran straight into its arms.